Judaism is considered one of the oldest monotheistic religions and has flourished despite a long history of discrimination. It's not surprising that history, and indeed the present, is littered with famous people who adhere to the Jewish faith, which makes a list like this divisive to say the least. With that in mind, here is our countdown of 5 of history's most famous Jewish people. Number 5. Harry Houdini. Today, Houdini's name is synonymous with acts of seemingly impossible escape, so much so that to pull a Houdini is a common colloquialism. Houdini's real name was Erich Weiss, and he was born in 1874, the son of a rabbi in Budapest, Hungary. Houdini's family moved to Wisconsin when he was still young. Interested in performing and magic from an early age, Houdini mastered the trapeze before going on to perform in vaudeville shows in New York City. But he didn't really start gaining recognition until marrying Wilhelmina Rahner in 1894. The couple performed together under the stage names Harry and Beatrice Houdini. The surname was a nod to a famous French conjurer, Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin. By 1900, Houdini had achieved international fame with his daring escapes. His act involved shackles, ropes, handcuffs, and a variety of locked containers. He often challenged his audiences to lock him up and even perform jailbreaks. One of the most bizarre escapes involved being chained inside the carcass of an unidentified sea creature, from which he escaped in under 15 minutes. Although a fan of stage magic, Houdini campaigned to debunk anyone who claimed to have actual supernatural powers. He attended seances to expose fraudulent spiritualists and testified in support of a bill to outlaw fortune-telling for profit. However, before he died, he told his wife that he would make every attempt to contact her from the afterlife. They agreed on a coded message that formed the words, "Rosabelle, believe." After his death, Beatrice tried everything to receive contact from her late husband. Still, after a decade of failure, she declared 10 years is long enough to wait for any man. Houdini died on October 31, 1926, from a ruptured appendix. Legend has it that this was caused by a student at McGill University who questioned Houdini about his ability to take a punch in the stomach. While chatting, the student, J. Gordon Whitehead, unexpectedly punched Houdini in the stomach, resulting in the rupture. Others speculate that spiritualists poisoned him as retribution for Houdini exposing them. Whatever the cause, Houdini's name lives on as a euphemism for daring disappearances and escapes. Number 4. Levi Strauss. Born in Butenheim, Germany on February 26, 1829, Strauss is best known for the brand of jeans that still bears his name. Strauss was the youngest of 6 children and moved to America in 1847 with his mother and sisters, since anti-Semitism was on the rise in Germany. Strauss's older brothers had already migrated and owned a dry goods store in New York City. Strauss worked with his brothers, learning the business, and in 1853 he decided to head west and try to make some money from the Californian gold rush. However, unlike most, he was not going to pan for gold. He wanted to open a store and expand the family business. He reasoned that with a huge influx of people, the area would need some dry goods stores, and he was correct. Strauss shipped in goods from his brothers in New York and sold various supplies to the hopeful prospectors in San Francisco. In truth, he made more money than most of the people drawn in by the lure of gold. As San Francisco grew, so did Strauss's business. He continued to sell goods to the growing families in the city, as well as supply smaller stores in more rural areas. Strauss became a prominent businessman and a well-respected member of his community. Despite being an influential part of the founding of San Francisco, Strauss's true fame would come from someone else's idea. In around 1871, Strauss was approached by a tailor called Jacob Davis. Davis had an idea to make hard-wearing pants for the laborers in the area. He had developed a technique of using rivets at points that usually gave out due to strain. However, he struggled to produce enough to meet demand and needed a business partner to help with production. Together, Strauss and Davis patented the idea, and the pants went into production. Known as waist-high overalls, they were first made from canvas. Eventually, the canvas was switched to denim and was dyed blue to hide stains. Blue jeans were born. They were so popular that Strauss built a large factory dedicated to their manufacture, Strauss died in 1902 at the age of 73. Of all his achievements, blue jeans were by far the most famous, and Levi Strauss & Company continues his legacy today. Number 3. Anne Frank. Anneliese Marie Frank was born in Frankfurt on June 12, 1929. Her father, Otto Frank, had suspicions of what was to come early on in Hitler's regime and moved his family to Amsterdam. However, Germany took control of the Netherlands in 1940, and Jewish people started to be singled out. Anne received a diary for her 13th birthday, a perfect gift for a girl venturing into womanhood. As she wrote in her new book, excited to have a confidant, she could not have known that her thoughts and feelings would one day be shared with the world. Less than a month after her birthday, her family was forced to go into hiding. They stayed in the back room and office of Otto's business with another Jewish family and a dentist who also needed to be concealed. The diary contains accounts of daily life in the annex, as well as thoughts and emotions that deal with what it felt like to be a German Jew at that point in history. The most hard-hitting part of the book is that it stops abruptly in August of 1944 when the Franks were discovered. The family was transported to Westerbork and from there were on the last transport to Auschwitz. There the family was separated, with Anne and her sister Margot transferred to Bergen-Belsen in late October or early November of 1944. Anne's mother died in Auschwitz in January of 1945, and it is believed that Anne and Margot died sometime between February and March. The tragedy is only heightened by how tantalizingly close they were to liberation, with Auschwitz liberated on January 27, 1945, and Bergen-Belsen just a few months later. Otto Frank was the only member of his family to survive. After he returned to Amsterdam, friends gave him papers that had been left by the Gestapo, including his daughter's diary. He later published a heavily edited version of the journal titled Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, fulfilling his late daughter's dream of being a writer. Given the scale of the murders all over Nazi-controlled territory, it is too easy to disassociate with the humanity of all the men, women, and children who were brutally robbed of their lives. Anne Frank's diary brings the individual suffering into sharp context by giving a face and a story of just one of the countless people who found themselves in that unthinkable situation. While Anne was by no means famous in her own lifetime, her memory lives on as a stark reminder of one of history's darkest chapters. Number 2. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879 in Württemberg, Germany, into a family of secular middle-class Jews. From an early age, Einstein was fascinated with the wonders of the scientific world. He marveled at a compass at the age of 5 and fell in love with geometry at the age of 12. At 16, he was introduced to Aaron Bernstein's books on physical science and became compelled to try and answer some of the questions about the fundamental workings of the universe. He was specifically fascinated by the thought of racing alongside a light beam and wondered what it would look like. Einstein had a rocky start to his education when he dropped out of his boarding school in Munich. Still, he completed his formal education in Switzerland before going to a polytechnic in Zurich. After graduating in 1900, his employment chances were hampered by Professor Heinrich Weber, whom Einstein had asked for a letter of recommendation. The problem was, Weber disliked Einstein enough to ruin any chance of employment. By 1905, Einstein published 4 papers that would change modern physics despite this setback. However, it wasn't until 1919 that Einstein gained international recognition when his prediction that starlight near the sun would be warped by space-time was proven to be true. This revelation showed Newton was wrong about gravity and catapulted Einstein into world renown. He won the 1921 Nobel Prize for Physics and continued to demonstrate brilliance in the field of physics for the rest of his life. Today, Nobel Prizes are still being won by work stemming from Einstein's theories. While Einstein wasn't necessarily religious, especially in his later years when he referred to himself as a religious non-believer, his Jewish heritage is undeniable. Einstein was a fervent supporter of the Jewish state and was even offered the presidency of Israel in 1952. He once said, "I believe in Spinoza's God," referring to Baruch Spinoza's belief that the sum of the natural and physical laws of the universe was God rather than an individual entity. However, Einstein often said, God does not play dice with the universe. Spinoza himself was born into a Jewish family and was excommunicated due to his scientific beliefs. Number 1. Jesus of Nazareth. Well, it had to be, didn't it? Ironically, one of the most famous Jews in history is responsible for a great schism in the Jewish faith. The story of Jesus' birth and death is so famous that there is little point recounting it here. Jesus grew up in Nazareth and became a rabbi and teacher of Judaism. He likely believed that God would intervene and allow the Jews to live in the Holy Land by ridding the land of foreign domination. The idea that God would restore the 12 tribes of Israel is reflected in Jesus' choosing of 12 disciples. After his death, his disciples believed that Jesus would return and establish the kingdom of God on earth. However, Jesus often challenged the Jewish religious leaders, calling them hypocrites and criticizing their behavior. Another clash between Jesus and the main Jewish faith was his claim to be the Son of God. Since Judaism is a monotheistic religion, there can only be one God. Therefore, the idea of a Holy Trinity is considered heretical. Jesus also promoted himself as the prophesied Messiah, a concept many in the Jewish faith rejected, since Jesus did not fulfill the messianic prophecies of Isaiah and Ezekiel. But whether he was a good Jewish boy or not, Jesus has to be the undisputed most famous Jewish person in history. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Jewish history, check out our book, History of the Jews, a captivating guide to Jewish history, starting from the ancient Israelites through the Roman rule to World War II. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.